Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Monotui, coach of the Tampa Bay Lux Rays, and today I'm bringing you guys our GBA Season 7 Week 5 Team Builder versus none other than George, aka Septile MC. If you've not done so already, please check out his YouTube link in the description below. He is a fantastic battler, probably one of the best in draft format. He ended up being GBA Season 6 champion, which was last season. And the game that we ended up playing at the very end of the season, our very last game, he ended up knocking us out of the playoffs by winning a very narrow 1-0 game. And then he went on to win the championship, and we just had to sit by and watch. So we are definitely looking to get our revenge on George this week. However, it's going to be very difficult to get past him because he is very good, and to get past his very scary team. Speaking of which, let's just hop into the roster that he has drafted. So, starting off, we have Mew, which is his Z-move user. We have Garchomp, Togekiss, Raikou, Registeel, Suicune, Serperior, Mienshao, Entei, Drapion, and Mismagius. He did have Volcarona instead of Entei, but he traded that to Crimson. And now he has the Triple Dog Core, which is kind of scary, but I have built a team of 6 that should be able to take on whatever team of 6 he decides to bring. So starting off, we're going to go with our Roserade. We have kind of a speedy but more support Roserade this week. We have Dual Stab, Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, Spikes, and Synthesis. I didn't really need too much other coverage for his team. It would have been nice to have HP Ground for something like the Registeel, but I will be able to set up Registeel as well as Drapion. However, I will be able to set up Spikes versus the Registeel, and I can set up Spikes as Drapion wants to switch in, and it doesn't necessarily want to switch in on Sludge Bombs if it's not running a lot of Spadef. So that's kind of nice. I can get chip damage off onto it, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards. But this Roserade is meant to take on things like the Serperior. It's meant to take on the Raikou. I'm not too KO'd by HP Ice unless he has Specs, and he has to run HP Ice for my Zygarde as well. I can take on the Mismagius, assuming it's not Nasty Plot or Taunt, which probably will be, but I can still take hits from it relatively well. I can take one hit from the Mienshao. I don't want to switch into it because High Jump Kick still destroys me. I can beat the Suicune 1v1, which is very nice, assuming that it's not Mirror Coat or something along those lines. I can beat the Serperior, plus 2 HP Flying will not be able to knock me out, which is very nice. Like I said, I can take on the Raikou. I can outspeed a Non-Scarf Togekiss and hit that thing with a super effective Sludge Bomb, doing a lot of damage to it. So overall, Roserade is a very nice bring this week. Its biggest job is to get up Spikes, just because his hazard removal is not the best. His only 2 hazard removers are Defog in the forms of Mew and Togekiss, so it's going to be very useful to possibly Spike stack against him and get some use out of that. I also did want to bring T-Spikes because it hurt his team a lot, but he does have the Drapion to absorb them, so I didn't want to bring it this week. We also have Synthesis on there. That's just so that I can last a while versus things like the Raikou, versus things like the Suicune. I can also beat a Registeel, not necessarily beat a Registeel 1v1, but I can take on whatever it wants to do, whether it wants to Thunder Wave me. I can get up some Spikes versus it. I can Synthesis off the damage, and then I can switch out, get my Natural Cure, and deal with it appropriately, which is very nice. So this is our Roserade set. It's able to take on a good number of things on his team. It's also able to set up hazards versus a good number of things on his team, and it can threaten a couple things offensively as well, which is very, very nice. So with that being our Roserade, we are now going to move on to our Miltank. And we have a physically defensive Miltank with Seismic Toss, Thunder Wave, Milk Drink, and Stealth Rock, and this is going to be our main switch into the Entei. Entei is a very big threat to this team. The combination of Sacred Fire plus Extreme Speed is very, very scary. Could even be running Iron Head for the Florges, but Sacred Fire plus and Flare Bloods do plenty of that anyway. This is also a very nice check to the Garchomp, assuming it's not Swords Dance Garchomp. Can take on the Registeel relatively well, assuming it doesn't have Toxic. I wanted to also run, what's it called? Wanted to run Sap Sipper for the Miltank, but I need Thick Fat for the Entei, so that's kind of unfortunate. I can also take on the Drapion with the set, which is very, very nice. I can also take on things like the Mew. If it's a physical Mew, I can Seismic Toss that thing, I can Thunder Wave it, and me being paralyzed is not as bad as the Mew being paralyzed, which is very nice. This is also going to be our Stealth Rocker. Like I said, his hazard removal is not great, and rocks are very useful for his team. Hits things like the Togekiss, hits things like the Entei, which is very, very nice, and it hits a lot of other things on his team neutrally, which is really good. I also wanted to run Heal Bell on this thing, because obviously getting burnt by Entei is kind of annoying, but with the burn nerf, I don't mind taking the damage from it too much, just because it's going to do is cancel out the leftovers, which is kind of nice. And with me running Seismic Toss, which I decided to run over Body Slam just to get some more damage on things like the Registeel and the Suicune and whatnot, I actually don't really need my attack stat at all. So there's absolutely no reason. As you can see here, I'm actually running a Bold Nature, because there's absolutely no reason for me to be either. I could be Impish as well, but again, it doesn't make a difference because Seismic Toss is based off my HP stat, which is going to do 50 damage every time. So I can't really touch the Mismagius, which kind of sucks, but unless it's running HP fighting, it can't really touch me back, and I can Thunder Wave it. If it's running taunt, I can switch out appropriately into something like my Florges, possibly into something like my Bisharp or my Greninja to switch to offensively threaten it. So Mismagius isn't the biggest deal in the world. It can be annoying, but probably not going to be the worst thing in the world for me to deal with. This is going to be our Miltank. It's actually very, very useful versus this team. Like I said, I take on the Garchomp. It's not going to be able to 2-hit kill me with anything unless it's like Life Orb Earthquake or like Banded Earthquake or something along those lines. I can beat the Registeel 1v1 because I have Recovery and it does not. My only concern is it being possibly Toxic. I also did want to run something along the lines of Protect because Mienshao is a very scary Pokemon. However, I couldn't really fit it on this thing. I really wanted Thunder Wave because, like I said, Thunder Waving that Mew is going to be very nice. Thunder Waving the Mienshao on switch in, Thunder Waving a possible like Entei or a Drapion or whatever wants to switch in is going to be extremely nice for me. So I decided to run Thunder Wave over anything along the lines of Heal Bell. So that's our Miltank. Going to be very useful versus this team. It outspeeds a lot, it does a lot of damage to things, and it can obviously spread status, heal up, stud up rocks, which is its biggest job. So with that being said, we are going to move on to the next member of our team, and that is going to be Bisharp. We are running a very speedy Bisharp, a Jolly Bisharp, with Knockoff, Iron Head, Sucker Punch, and Pursuit. The speed that we have on this thing is to outspeed a modest Togekiss, like in case he decides to bring like a non-Scarf modest Togekiss, or if he brings a Scarf and I'm able to knock it off at some point, I will be able to outspeed it. Other than that, we are just Jolly for that. So Knockoff, Iron Head, Sucker Punch, Pursuit, 4 attacks, and we have the Lumberry. This is going to be very important because with the Lumberry, I'll be able to possibly switch into Suicune and knock off its item. If it's not Rest, I may be able to beat that thing 1v1. Probably not because Suicune is extremely bulky. However, being able to knock off that thing's item safely without being status is very nice. This is also very useful for something along the lines of a bulky Will-O-Wisp Mew. It could be very good. A Thunder Waving Togekiss, it can also possibly beat 1v1. If Registeel wants to go for a status against me, like a Thunder Wave, I'll be able to take that, absorb it, and then obviously eat my Lumberry, and then we'll be good. If Mismagius wants to go for a Will-O-Wisp trying to cripple me, I can obviously eat my Lumberry, and then knock it out with a knockoff afterwards, or go for Pursuit trying to trap it, which is very, very nice. This is just a relatively nice Pokemon versus this team. It can Sucker Punch and knock out the Mew, assuming it doesn't have some sort of priority, which is very useful. I can Sucker Punch the Raikou and pick it off from a low amount of HP. I can pick off the Garchomp with Sucker Punch after I weaken it a bit. Same thing with the Superior, same thing with even the Mienshao. If I get that thing to around 30%, I'll be able to knock it out with the Sucker Punch. I'm not hitting too hard because I am Jolly and I'm not boosting item in any way, but being able to knock off items is going to be very useful. Being able to possibly Pursuit trap things like the Mismagius or the Mew is going to be very useful. Possibly being able to hit things like the Togekiss with Iron Head is going to be very useful. And possibly being able to absorb a burn from a Scald or a Will-O-Wisp and being able to fire back an attack is going to be very, very important for this team. So that is going to be our Bisharp. Like I said, its role is mostly there to deal with the Mew as well as deal with the Mismagius, but mostly the Mew. Mew's a very big threat, assuming it doesn't having, it might have fighting coverage, but I do have Sucker Punch if it does have something along the lines of Drain Punch or Low Kick or anything like that, so I will be able to hit it before it can hit me. And if it's Colbur Berry, then I'll be able to knock off its Colbur Berry or get rid of its Colbur Berry for my Greninja later on. Speaking of my Greninja, that is going to be the next Pokemon that we're going to have on our team, and we are running a Life Orb Greninja. Hydro Pump, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, Grass Knot, relatively standard Greninja, nothing really crazy here. The speed that we have is enough to outspeed everything on his team. I believe the fastest thing on his team is Raikou, and we will be able to outspeed that thing. Hydro Pump, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, and Grass Knot. He does not have a very good switch into this thing. Dark Pulse 2 KOs, Oroko's the Mew. Ice Beam can OHKO the Garchomp. Ice Beam 2 KOs, Oroko's the Togekiss. Well, it won't OHKO. It'll 2 KO the Togekiss, assuming it's not fully Spadef. And it always 2 KOs after rocks. Raikou will be 2 KO'd, assuming it's not Assault Vest. He can switch into the Registeel, but I do have responses to the Registeel. Like I said, I can go out into Miltank and start setting up rocks. I can go into my Roserade to start setting up hazards, and I do have the Buzzwole on the team, as you can see there, that deals with it immediately. We have Grass Knot that can 2 KO Suicune, depending on its spread. Especially defensive, I can't, but if it's the standard like physically defensive Combine set, I will be able to 2 KO it with Grass Knot. I can outspeed and 2 KO the Superior, which is very nice. I outspeed non-Scarf Mienshao and hit that thing with a Hydro Pump, I believe, for an OHKO, which is very nice. I knock out the Entei with Hydro Pump, assuming it's not Assault Vest. I hit the Drapion very hard, and I knock out the Mismagius. So as you can see, Life Orb Greninja is a very big offensive threat to his team. It outspeeds absolutely everything. I do have to be careful of Scarfers like Togekiss, Scarfers like Garchomp that can hit me very, very hard. Even like a Scarf Raikou could be very scary. Carmine Suicune, if it gets up a Carmine, will be able to beat me 1v1. So I'll have to deal with that accordingly. But overall, Greninja is just a very good offensive threat versus this team. Outspeeds the entirety of it and does a lot of damage to whatever wants to come in. So that's our Greninja. Like I said, relatively standard, nothing too crazy going on here, but it is efficient versus this team, and I'm hoping it'll be able to put in a lot of work versus George. So now that we've covered Greninja, let us move on to the next member of our team, and that is going to be our Buzzwole. So we're running a very bulky Buzzwole with a lot of HP, as you can see here, 172 HP. This is just so that anything with Seismic Toss, for example the Registeel, will not be able to break my sub. As you can see here, we are sub 3 attack, Superpower, Leech Life, Ice Punch, hits everything on his team super effectively or neutrally, which is very nice. Leech Life will be able to do a lot of damage to that Mew. Obviously, Mew would be able to check me offensively with something like Psychic or Will-O-Wisp or something along those lines, but if I'm behind a sub, when he goes for that, he has to go for an attack, and he has to take a very powerful Leech Life to the face. Garchomp will not be able to do too much to me unless he's running something like HP Flying. Also, +2 Aerial Ace is the only way he can knock me out as well. Like Hidden Power Flying will not knock me out. He has to be at +2 after a Swords Dance in order to knock me out with an Aerial Ace. Togekiss is a threat, but like I said, if I can sub up versus a few of his things, then that's going to be very nice for me, and I'll be able to hit that thing with a super effective Ice Punch, and if he's very bulky, I will be able to outspeed him as well, which is kind of nice. That's kind of what the 84 speed is there for, just to possibly outspeed like a very bulky Togekiss. I can also, with my Buzzwole, I can switch into most forms of the Mienshao. I can't switch into like a no-item acrobatics, or if he's mixed with HP Flying. I cannot switch into those. However, if he's locked into anything else, I will be able to go out into my Buzzwole. Like, he can't spam High Jump Kick versus my team, which is very, very nice. This and the Florges as well. And if he's not Life Orb and he's Scarf, then he won't be able to 2-hit KO my Florges from full, which is very, very nice. But if he has Life Orb with Hidden Power Flying, then that's kind of a problem, but I do check it offensively a little bit better. Because I believe, actually, Mienshao cannot run Vacuum Wave this generation. I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm pretty sure Mienshao just can't run Vacuum Wave. Because I think he was talking about how he's going to bring that versus somebody else, and then he got really sad because he couldn't bring it. But this is our Buzzwole. Like I said, it's able to take on a lot of his team. It can take on the Drapion. Like, Aerial Ace is not going to be able to OHKO me, and I can hit that thing with a Leech Life and get some HP back. Mismagius can't OHKO me with anything, and I can hit that thing for a 2-hit KO with Ice Punch. Like I said, Superior can't OHKO me with anything bar like Life Orb, HP Flying, and I knock that thing out with Superpower. Superior, like I said, could be running HP Flying, so I have to be very careful of that. But like I said, if I'm behind a sub, which should be doable, because he does have things like Registeel, and he does have things like Mienshao that I can do it against. I can do it against some forms of Garchomp, which will be very nice. I should be able to get behind a sub and possibly threaten some things on his team. Also, what's nice is not a lot on his team OHKOs me. Like, Raikou does not OHKO me with Thunderbolt, and I can hit him with a Leech Life or a Superpower and get a ton of damage off onto them. Suicune, I might be able to outspeed and hit with some very powerful attacks, which would be very nice. Obviously, it's super bulky, so we'll have to be very careful of that, but if it's running Fizdef, then my Greninja kind of deals with it better. If it's running Spadef, then this thing kind of deals with it better, so that's at least kind of nice. I just kind of determined that sub 3 attacks was my best option versus this team. I didn't want to go Banded because he has resistances to all of my attacks. Like, if I'm locked into Superpower, he goes Togekiss. If I'm locked into Leech Life, he goes Togekiss. I'm locked into Ice Punch, he can go into Mew or Suicune or something along those lines. So I didn't want to be choice. Leftovers is also just kind of nice so that I can continuously take hits from the Mienshao. I can take an Entei Sacred Fire if I absolutely have to. I don't want to, but I can if I have to, and then hit him with a Superpower. I'm probably going to get burnt, and that's going to make me really sad, but like I said, I do have my Miltank to switch into that Entei every time. So, yeah, also, I'm pretty sure if Superior is not Life Orb, I don't think HP Flying knocks me out, just because Superior is, like, really weak. I'll double check that before the game, but this is our Buzzwole. Like I said, it takes on so many different attacks from his team, and it does a lot of damage to anything on his team. Like, if you look at his team, Leech Life for the Mew, Ice Punch for the Garchomp, Ice Punch for the Togekiss, Superpower the Raikou. I think you get the point. Buzzwole's a very big offensive threat, and hopefully I'll be able to take some hits with it and deal out a ton of damage. But with that being said, that is our Buzzwole, and now we're going to move on to the final member of our team, and that is going to be Florges, making its season debut. We have not brought it yet to a single game, however we are bringing it this week. And we are bringing Moonblast, Hidden Power Ground, Calm Mind, and Synthesis. So this is a very big winning condition versus this team. Moonblast HP Ground hits his entire team neutrally or super effectively, and it's able to set up on a lot versus his team. It can set up on the Togekiss, assuming it's not Nasty Plot and it's not able to like flinch everything on my team to death. It can not set up on Garchomp because Earthquake still hurts and it can have Poison Jab and Iron Head, but I can possibly force out Garchomp or just threaten it with a Moonblast and get a lot of damage off onto it before it hits, or like I can take a hit from it and then fire back a Moonblast, which will be able to knock it out after I get a little bit of damage off onto it, which is nice. I can beat the Raikou 1v1, like if it's Calm Mind and I'm Calm Mind, which I am, I'll be able to Calm Mind alongside it, and because I have instant recovery and he does not, I should be able to win that war unless he crits me before I am able to beat it, which is kind of nice. I can beat the Calm Mind Suicune, assuming that, once again, I win the Calm Mind war, which is a little more difficult versus Suicune because it's a lot more bulky, but, you know, we'll deal with that when we get there. I can take 2 hits from the Mienshao, assuming it's not Life Orb. I can take 2 Poison Jab, 2 non-Life Orb or non-Expert Belt boosted Poison Jab, so if it's Scarf, this is going to be my initial switch in order to take that thing on, just because I don't want to risk HP flying and my Buzzwole coming in. I can beat the Mismagius, assuming it's not Taunt or Nasty Plot, but like I said, I have recovery and it does not, so if it switches in on me and I go for Moonblast, I'm getting chip damage off onto it, and I can possibly switch out or just continuously spam Moonblast. I don't beat the Superior if it's, like if it's Superior versus Florges immediately. However, if I get a Calm Mind up before he goes out into a Superior, I will be able to beat it then, which is very nice. The Registeel, I actually can possibly beat because I don't think uninvested Ironhead 2-KOs me. Seismic Toss also does not 2-KO me, which is kind of nice, so I can possibly Calm Mind up versus that thing and hit it with an HP ground. If it's Toxic, I have to switch out though. And like I said, if he does have his Registeel, I'll be able to go out into something like Roserade or Miltank and be able to set up hazards and possibly gain some footing in the game, so I'm very okay with that. I have no idea what his Mew is going to be. Maybe I can beat the Mew, maybe I can't beat the Mew, who knows, it's a Mew, it can do whatever it wants. And obviously, I don't really deal with the Entei or the Drapion, but Miltank deals with both of those. Like, even if it's like a Taunt Drapion, I have Seismic Toss in order to whittle it down, which is going to be kind of nice. If it is, Entei beats pretty much any or Miltank beats any version of Entei, unless it's like, I don't know, does it get Focus Blast? It probably doesn't, and whatever. Miltank beats Entei as well as it can deal with the Drapion, so that's going to be not a problem for me. And against either of those, I will be able to get up rocks, unless, like I mentioned, it is like a Taunt Drapion. And even then, he's going to need some speed on his Drapion in order to outspeed me, because I am naturally faster. So, Florges, very, very big threat versus this team. I can possibly pull off a Calm Mind Sweep versus this team. Like I said, Moonblast and Hidden Grower Ground is all I need for his team. It hits the Drapion, it hits the Entei coming in. If I get up rocks, his Entei is going to be pressured, which is very nice. So this is a very, very big win condition for me. However, that is going to be the team that we are bringing versus George, aka Sceptile MC. Like I said earlier, definitely check him out in the description below. He is a fantastic guy, excellent battler as well. And I really, really look forward to playing him and really look forward to this rematch because it has been a long time coming and I really want to get my revenge for him knocking me out of the playoffs. But with that being said, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed and I will see you in the game.